edition of News Today, a series in which we discuss and briefly analyze the important news of the day. Let's have a look at today's main headlines. The Lok Sabha expels an MP from the Parliament based on the Ethics Committee report in a cash for query case. India attends the 6th National Security Advisor level meeting of Colombo's Security Conclave held in Mauritius. The National Organ and Tissue Transplantation Organization orders an inquiry into cash for kidney racket allegations. Several developmental and regulatory policy measures were taken by the Reserve Bank of India. A paper titled A Complex Adaptive System Framework to Regulate Artificial Intelligence was released by the Economic Advisory Council to PM. The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs approves the reservation norms for jute packaging materials under Jute Packaging Materials Act of 1987. Starting with today's first news, the Lok Sabha expelled an MP from the Parliament based on the Ethics Committee report in a cash for query case. The Lok Sabha Ethics Committee found the MP guilty of unethical conduct and contempt of the House and recommended the MP's expulsion from the House. Article 101 gives only 3 grounds on which an MP seat can be vacated: resignation, disqualification, and continuous absence from the House for 60 days. Now first let's discuss more about the Ethics Committee. Both the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha have an Ethics Committee. Such a committee was constituted first in Rajya Sabha in 1997 and then in Lok Sabha in the year 2000. If we talked about its members, the Lok Sabha Ethics Committee consists of 15 members nominated by the Speaker from the Lok Sabha itself. These members hold the office for a term not exceeding 1 year. While for the Rajya Sabha, it contains 10 members from the House nominated by the Chairman who hold office until a new committee is nominated. Coming back to the news, let's take a closer look at the process of removal of an MP through the Ethics Committee. First comes the submission of a complaint. A complaint can be filed against members of the House by other members and also by outsiders through a member along with the evidence of alleged misconduct. The Speaker of the House can also refer to the committee any complaint against an MP. Then comes the evaluation of the complaint by the committee. The Ethics Committee makes a prima facie inquiry before examining a complaint and makes recommendations after evaluating the complaint. Finally comes the report and decision of the committee. The Ethics Committee presents its report to the Speaker, who asks the House if the report should be taken up for consideration. An important thing to note here is that the decision of the House can be challenged in court. In another news, India attended the 6th National Security Advisor level meeting of Colombo Security Conclave held in Mauritius. The Colombo Security Conclave was formed in 2011 as a trilateral maritime security grouping of India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives. Later, Mauritius joined as 4th member, and Bangladesh and Seychelles are observer countries. It has a permanent secretariat based in Colombo to coordinate activities and implement decisions. The conclave focuses on 5 pillars: maritime safety and security, countering terrorism and radicalization, combating trafficking and transnational organized crime, cybersecurity and protection of critical infrastructure, and humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. The conclave holds a lot of significance for its members. For example, it is in line with India's vision of security and growth for all in the region, or SAGAR, and neighborhood first policy. Also, it provides a cooperative environment and a collaborative mechanism in the maritime neighborhood of Indian Ocean region. Coming back to the news, let's take a look at the key developments that took place during the recent meeting. Countries agreed on a roadmap of activities for 2024 in the face of traditional, non-traditional, and emerging hybrid challenges in the Indian Ocean region. Non-traditional security issues here are challenges that arise primarily out of non-military sources such as climate change, infectious diseases, and natural disasters. Also, the launch of the Ocean Information Services portal was announced during the meeting. This portal aims to facilitate the exchange of oceanographic information. Before moving on, let's take a look at some other regional cooperation mechanisms in the Indian Ocean region, which include the Indian Ocean Rim Association for Regional Cooperation, the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation or BIMSTEC, and the Indian Ocean Commission, to which India is not a member but is an observer. Moving on, the National Organ and Tissue Transplantation Organization ordered an inquiry into cash for kidney racket allegations. The National Organ and Tissue Transplantation Organization is a national-level organization set up under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It functions as an apex center for coordination and networking for the procurement and distribution of organs and tissues, and also for registry of organs and tissue donation and transplantation in the country. Now let's discuss more about organ transplantation, its issues, and how it is regulated in India. Organ transplantation is the act of surgical removal of an organ from one person and placing it into another person. There is a wide gap between patients and the organs that are available in India. For example, only 6,000 renal transplants are performed in India annually against 1.8 lakh people who are suffering from renal failure. This high burden of demand versus supply gap has resulted in an increase in organ trade in India. Other issues in organ transplantation in India include lack of organized systems for organ procurement from deceased donors, poor awareness and attitude towards organ donation, and high cost of the procedures for uninsured and poor patients. The primary legislation related to organ donation and transplantation in India is the Transplantation of Human Organs Act of 1994. The Government of India is also implementing the National Organ Transplant Program to provide organ donation and transplantation. Earlier this year, the government released the Modified National Organ Transplantation Guidelines. The guidelines allowed those above 65 years of age to receive an organ for transplantation from deceased donors, and it also removed the domicile requirement to register as an organ recipient. In the next news, several developmental and regulatory policy measures were taken by the Reserve Bank of India. Let's take a look at these measures. RBI has proposed enhancing the Unified Payments Interface or UPI transaction limit for specified categories. Transaction limit for UPI is currently capped at Rs 1 lakh except in a few categories like capital markets, collections and insurance, where the transaction limit is Rs 2 lakh. It is proposed to enhance the UPI limit for payments to hospitals and educational institutions from 1 lakh to 5 lakh per transaction. Before moving on to the next measure, let's know more about UPI. UPI was launched in 2016 and is an instant payment system developed by the National Payments Corporation of India. It has a two-factor authentication. UPI accounts for over 40% of India's digital transactions, and in the recent past, India made UPI payment deals with countries like France, UAE, and Sri Lanka. Coming to the next measure, RBI has announced the setting up of a fintech repository. The repository will be operationalized by the Reserve Bank Innovation Hub in April 2024 or earlier. Also, a regulatory framework for web aggregation of loan products was announced to increase transparency in their operations. Web aggregation of loan products entails aggregation of loan offers from multiple lenders on an electronic platform. It enables borrowers to compare and choose the best available option to avail loan from one of the available lenders. Moving on, a paper titled "A Complex Adaptive System Framework to Regulate Artificial Intelligence" was released by the Economic Advisory Council to PM. First, let's take a closer look at artificial intelligence and its related issues. Artificial intelligence or AI is a machine's ability to perform the cognitive functions we associate with human minds, such as perceiving, reasoning, learning, and problem solving. Regulating AI has become a necessity due to a number of factors. For instance, traditional methods of regulation fall short due to AI's non-linear and unpredictable nature. Further, AI can be used for social surveillance and impersonation, leading to loss of privacy. Deepfakes are an example of this concern. Moreover, the use of AI can pose national security threats, compromise critical infrastructure, disrupt the democratic process, lead to job loss, and provide biased results. However, regulating AI comes with many challenges like rapid technological advancements, interdisciplinary nature of AI, dynamic AI ecosystem, lack of standardization, and enforcement challenges. Coming back to the news, the paper provides a novel framework to regulate AI based on complex adaptive system. Complex adaptive system is a system where components interact and evolve in unpredictable ways. The framework consists of 5 key principles. Number 1, creating a specialist regulator like an expert regulatory body with a broad mandate and the ability to respond swiftly. Second, ensuring transparency through open licensing of core algorithms for external audits and continuous monitoring of AI systems. Third, defining clear lines of AI accountability by mandating standardized incident reporting protocols to document any system aberrations or failures. Fourth, mandating manual overrides and authorization choke points to empower humans to intervene when AI systems behave erratically. And lastly, establishing guardrails and partitions to implement clear boundary conditions to limit undesirable AI behaviors. Before moving on, let's take a look at some recent measures that have been taken to regulate AI. At the global level, we have the Bletchley Declaration, in which over 25 major countries, including India, called to tackle the potential risks of AI, and the Hiroshima AI process, which is an effort by G7 to regulate AI. Talking about India, the National Strategy for Artificial Intelligence of 2018 and the National AI Portal are some examples of such measures. Moving on, the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs approved reservation norms for jute packaging materials under the Jute Packaging Materials Act of 1987. Now first, let's learn more about the jute crop. The jute crop is grown in humid climate with temperatures ranging between 24 to 38 degrees Celsius. It needs a minimum rainfall of 1000 mm. The best soil for jute is the new grey alluvial soil of good depth receiving silt from annual floods. Also known as the golden fiber, it is one of the major industries in India's eastern region. India is the world's biggest producer of jute, followed by Bangladesh. And major jute producing states in India are West Bengal, which is the largest producer, Bihar, Odisha, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana. However, the jute industry in India faces several issues like lack of machinery modernization, labor shortages, and the rising cost of raw material. Coming back to the news, the Jute Packaging Materials Compulsory Use in Packing Commodities Act of 1987 provides for the compulsory use of jute packaging material in the supply and distribution of certain commodities. Mandatory packaging norms approved for jute year 2023-24 provide for 100% reservation of food grains and 20% of sugar to be compulsorily packed in jute bags. So what are the benefits of such reservation? It protects the interest of domestic production of raw jute and jute packaging materials in India, thereby making India self-reliant. It also provides relief to 4 lakh workers employed in jute mills and ancillary units and supports the livelihood of around 40 lakh farmer families. Moreover, it protects the environment as jute is a natural, biodegradable, renewable and reusable fiber and hence fulfills all sustainability parameters. India has taken several other steps for the jute industry, like the Jute Improved Cultivation and Netting Exercises, which support pre- and post-harvesting operations, the Production Linked Incentive Scheme for Jute Diversified Products to increase exports, and the Jute Technology Mission. Let's take a look at today's place in news, which is the country Guyana with the capital Georgetown. It is in news because Venezuela and Guyana saw tensions over a border dispute around the Essequibo River and an offshore area. The country lies in the northeastern corner of South America and is not landlocked. It is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean in the north, Suriname in the east, Brazil in the south, and Venezuela in the west. Let's take a look at its geographical features. It has a number of mountains like the Arakai Mountains, the Pacaraima Mountains and the Kanuku Mountains. Its highest point is Mount Roraima and its main rivers are Corentyne, Berbice, Demerara and Essequibo, which all empty into Atlantic. As we conclude today's main news, let's take a look at some quick updates. Indian Army conducted tabletop exercise for women officers of Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The exercise is a part of ongoing efforts of the Center for United Nations Peacekeeping. The Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs has launched India-South Korea Electronic Origin Data Exchange System. The system will facilitate implementation of India-Korea Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement by electronic exchange of origin information between two customs administrations. Training launch of Agni-1 was carried out successfully from APJ Abdul Kalam Island in Odisha. Agni-1 is a short-range ballistic missile and is a very high-precision missile system with a range of over 700 kilometers. At a discussion held by C40, Delhi's breakthrough in fighting climate change like City of Lakes project and 3I model were mentioned. City of Lakes project aims to rejuvenate water bodies in city. Delhi's 3I model for electric vehicles focuses on inclusion, incentivization and innovation. This year, India further improved its global ranking in the Climate Change Performance Index or CCPI 2024 by securing 7th position. CCPI is released by German Watch and assesses countries' performance in 4 categories: GHG emissions, renewable energy, energy use and climate policy. UNICEF's Generation Unlimited, in collaboration with India's Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, introduced Green Rising Initiative at COP28. The initiative aims to empower youth-led climate actions and solutions. Geneticists and conservationists have joined forces to reintroduce the dodo, which has been extinct since the late 17th century. Dodo is a flightless bird that was endemic to the island of Mauritius. Eastern Ghats Nature Interpretation Center was inaugurated along the periphery of the Kambalkonda Wildlife Sanctuary. The wildlife sanctuary is located on the outskirts of Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to the test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.